Partition created two new administrations in Ireland. Both faced the challenge of state building to a backdrop of violent civil conflict. They were also confronted by global economic challenges. In both jurisdictions, conservative politics dominated over innovation. This extended to cultural politics also, with the influence of various churches being pronounced. Despite this, there was significant social change between the 1920s and the 1960s. Whilst Northern Ireland's industrial base gave it many advantages over the Free State, it lagged behind Britain. Both new states experienced chronic unemployment. In Belfast alone, there were over 50,000 unemployed in 1932, providing the context for the outdoor relief protests that saw Catholics and Protestants combining to demand concessions from poor law guardians. This cross-community alliance was all too rare. In July 1935, sectarian violence returned to scar communal relations. World War II brought tragedy to Northern Ireland, most notably via the near 1,000 fatalities caused by the Blitz of 1941. But the war and the years following it brought economic respite. In the 1950s, the people of Northern Ireland were more prosperous than they had been in the 1930s. Unemployment remained relatively high at around 6%. Its impact was cushioned by the safety net provided by the welfare state. Unionist politicians objected to what they viewed as socialism, but their arguments were defeated by widespread support for social reform. In particular, advances by the Northern Ireland Labour Party convinced Unionists to overcome their ideological principles and to plant Westminster's welfare innovations in local soil. The extension of the welfare state increased the workforce in the health service, public administration and teaching. It introduced family allowance payments disbursed directly to mothers, providing valuable income for many hard-pressed women. In the 1950s, student numbers at Queen's University climbed by 50%, and the proportion of Catholics rose to 20% of the student body. There were also some changes in the workforce. There had been significant segregation and sectarianism in the workplace, but in the improving conditions after 1945, this was somewhat mitigated. Catholics made some advances in the building sector, and they also explored increasing opportunities in the public sector, particularly in teaching and the health service. There were also changes for women workers. The traditionally high numbers of female workers in the textile sector continued, although the industry was in long-term decline. Many women benefited from increased opportunities in the service sector. Note, however, that barriers to equality remained. Women were expected to resign civil service posts, for example, when they married, right up until the mid-1970s. If sectarianism was evident in the workplace, it was also present in residential segregation. Post-war planners made some efforts to break down these divisions. The Northern Ireland Housing Trust led the way. However, local authorities often took decisions on new house building with an eye on demographic balances and electoral outcomes. Modernity did, however, win out in the creation of new forms of celebrity. Radio soap opera The McCooeys, based on a Belfast working-class family of indeterminate religion, had 500,000 dedicated followers. It launched the career of comedian Jimmy Young. From the 1950s, television brought popular entertainers to extensive audiences. In the North, television increased the status of Ruby Murray, who was dubbed the North's first TV star. Another remarkable vocalist who went on to international fame was Van Morrison. Television arrived in time to cover the new street politics of the 1960s. Cultural modernisation had its equivalent in the political sphere. This was represented by Prime Minister Terence O'Neill's policies. In 1965, O'Neill exchanged visits with the Taoiseach, Sean Lemass. Lemass was also a moderniser who stood apart from many in his Fianna Fáil administration. He was central to the economic modernisation of the Irish Republic. Famously, these meetings stirred the ire of hardline unionists such as Reverend Ian Paisley, who mobilised protests against O'Neill. These developments were played out amidst rising communal tensions in the lead-up to the 50th anniversary of the Battle of the Somme and the Easter Rising, highly emotive events for Unionists and Nationalists respectively.